of the Hoop Show. My name is Ben, and we're coming off a loss to the Saints, unfortunately. Season over, unfortunately. But here with me today, special guest to talk about the loss, talk about the Cats in general, is my very good friend Jake from the Chat Cats and ambassador for Cotton On as well. Welcome, Jake. How you going? How you doing, buddy?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm definitely the ambassador for the Chap Chat Cats. I don't think I quite have the look that the Cotton On brand is going for. I don't know if beards are in or not
Beards are
with Cotton On
definitely
at the
in.
moment.
2023 beards are in. Let us know in the chat if you think beards are in. If this is your first time watching us, very much welcome to the channel. Thank you to everyone who comes most weeks and is a subscriber and all that. But if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so and hitting that like button. Now, Jake, as I said, we lost the game at Marvel Stadium on Saturday night. You and I were both there, and we got to me and the what are we called? The Troops? Yes, the Troops. I think we are. What is it? Yes. Anyway, we got to sit there together, and it was not the best game ever. We lost it by 33 points. Never really looked like we were in it, but unfortunately, that's the way it goes sometimes in footy. And now we look ahead to we're looking ahead to one more week, but most of us are probably looking ahead to 2024. What were your thoughts on the game, and what do you take away from it?
Yeah. Look, obviously disappointing. You never like to lose games, especially when you're as used to winning. As we are at the Cattery. I'd like to get out of the way off the top. Very happy for St Kilda fans. I will say it's one of those things. It's easy when you live in sort of a Geelong echo chamber to forget that for the last 15 years we have been essentially the central villain for most other clubs in the AFL. I don't know how many painful losses we've inflicted. It's hard to count how many painful losses we've inflicted on clubs throughout the AFL. So look, happy for St Kilda fans, but the game itself, from our perspective, disappointing. We never really got anything going. I think it was you that said to me, I can't really even think of one passage of play, that you could point to and go, there it is. There's Cats footy.
That's what we've
So
been
it's just one
waiting
of those
for.
nights.
Yeah, we didn't see it, did we? And
No.
look, there's definitely some clubs that are happy for our downfall. I've got one Hawk supporter. I think it's a Hawk supporter in the chat here. Go Hawks! Enjoy that rebuild, Cats. So titles. I don't want to say the other version of that, but I'll go with titles. It's going to be a long one. Well, we can't win them all. You can't win every grand final. We've won 4. We've made 6 grand finals in the Selwood era. So I think it was 6, wasn't it? Yeah, something like that. But that's okay. I enjoy it. I definitely enjoyed it when Hawthorn hit the skids, and probably even a little bit when Richmond hit the skids a little bit. But you can't win them all, Jake. You can't win them all, but that's okay. 40,000 Geelong supporters. No, how many Geelong supporters do you reckon were at the ground? I thought it was pretty mixed, actually. There's 40,000 at the game, but it felt like a bit of a Saints supporters generally don't show up.
It seemed like a lot less Geelong supporters at halftime. I think a few people went out for, to get some food or some drinks and maybe never came back. When they announced the 40,000 on the screen in the fourth quarter or whenever it was, I looked around and thought, maybe more like 25 right at the moment. I like you, I thought it was probably a pretty even split, but you could just tell. Myself and Johnny got into the ground probably 8 or 9 minutes late, and St Kilda, I think, kicked a couple of goals while we were still getting to our seats. And the roar from the Saints fans, they were up and about, they were loud and proud, and it just, I don't know, there was just a bit of a spectre hanging over the whole evening for me. I was worried about this game leading up to it because I felt like there were lots of Cats fans who were sort of treating it as a formality. Oh, well, we lost to Collingwood, but, now we'll beat the Saints, and then we've just got to beat the Dogs. And, the Saints have been, pretty typical Ross Lyon team in that they are sort of hard to destroy, even if their best footy might not be league best. And as we said on our preview pod, they were strong in a heap of areas that has really been a struggle for us this year. Uncontested possessions, they're up in the top
Yeah.
2 or 3 for that. Same with marks. So their ability to spread the ball, I was worried about that, and the fears turned out to be well founded.
Oh, you mentioned the roars of the Saints fans, and there's nothing worse. I'm not talking about Saints fans, but when you get to a game late and you can hear screaming, you're like, "Was that us? Was that them?" You're trying to work out, was that a Geelong scream? Was that an opponent scream? Like you don't know.
Yeah.
And then you get in, and it's like, oh, no good. But I nearly was one of those Geelong supporters that left early. I got to the game and they had the 2009 round 14 game on again. I'm like, oh, I'm going. This is no good.
Oh,
Can't watch this. But I said, put the grand final on. That's the much better game.
yeah,
Um,
that's right.
but no, that's all right.
Show that
Hold on
goal
to.
that hit the post.
Yeah, exactly. Just on replay. I should have put that on the phone. Just
That's
kept bringing
right.
that up. Hang on. We got a comment from Robbie here. Robbie says we will rebuild on the run. I think we will, and that's what we've been doing, Robbie. We've been doing
Yep.
that over the last few years. That's the brief that Scotty's got. He's got to win premierships, and he's got to return over the list and regenerate on the go. And he's doing a pretty good job of it. He's got a premiership out of it. Well, he's got two over his career. One kind of inherited and still took him all the way. But I could say he's gets a pass mark. I think maybe not. I guess probably with the whole club this year. It hasn't been our best season on the park, and we'll cover all that stuff in a few weeks when we do the season wrap up and all that sort of stuff. Sammy's on. Oh, Sammy's on. Hang on. What was Sammy saying here? Bleh. Get this hack and his glamorous scarf off out of here. Any relation of yours?
Uh, yeah, might be a brother.
Might be a brother. So, look, a couple of big takeaways from the game, mate. I think we've touched on it. The season is over. That was probably the thing that hits us the most, sort of coming out of the game.
Mm.
The second time since 2007 that we haven't made the final. So we have had a charmed run, haven't we? It's been good, you have to say.
It's yeah, it's unbelievable. Like I and it's hard because on Twitter you don't like to be that person who's like eternally glass half full. But it's like
Mm.
how do you not be as a Cats fan? Like I was thinking on the way down to the ground, Johnny and I were listening to the GWS Essendon game. And that to me is such a painful fate. If you're an Essendon supporter, your finals campaign on the line, your season, and they dish up that. And
Yep.
I sort of contrast it with being a Cats fan is we've we've been to the mountaintop 4 times in 15 or 16 years. So you can be excused occasionally not showing up once in a blue moon. Like the Bombers haven't been there. So I just can't I'm so grateful, I guess, for the experience we've had. And I feel for those other fan bases who they're gonna miss finals, and they don't have what we've had to sort of to keep us warm through the winter of no finals this year.
Who are we going to cheer for in the finals now that we know? I think I'm leaning towards St Kilda. Not that I think they'll actually go all the way, but I do like a team that hasn't won it for a while, getting up
Mm.
and having some success. Probably after that, there's a bit of we're not in agreement in the Reeve household. I would be happy to see Brisbane be up there again. It's been a little while since Brisbane won one, and Carlton clearly, but they're already too. Carlton's already too arrogant for my liking. So for me, it's probably Brisbane and St Kilda. But my wife does not like Brisbane. Can't stand him. Probably that Dane Zorko bloke. She doesn't like him too much. So she'd be more than happy.
That's
But what are you? Who are you? Which colours will you be wearing apart from Geelong colours in September?
uh, in September,
Tipperary?
I'll be wearing the AFLW Cats
AFLW.
colours.
Very good. Well
Like
done.
there's still a Cats
That was
team
a
that's
test,
got a
Jake.
final
I
that's
was
very much in contention.
I was testing you,
Look,
Jake. No.
I actually and hopefully I passed. I said to the chaps a few weeks ago, I still think Melbourne might come good. Not that I'm saying I want to see them win, but I know I just get this feeling about Melbourne that they are, you know, prior to us winning one, they were the last premiers. It's
Yeah,
not like they won a flag 15 years ago and there's been a lot of list churn. They are still mostly the same team. Um,
pretty
I
much.
guess
Yeah.
injuries have happened for them and all that sort of thing, but I just sort of feel like their footy is built to withstand finals. Um, they've given up some big scores to teams in the run home that sort of surprised me a bit defensively, maybe not as disciplined
Mm.
as I would have thought. But if I would, I don't know, I'm not really cheering for anyone. I would have cheered for the Doggies had they made it. And I guess they still have an outside chance of making it, depending on what results go their way in the last round. But if I had to pick who I think will win, I'm with you with Brisbane, but I also think Melbourne could still put a run together. Honestly,
Oh, it's
yeah.
not who I think. Yeah, I still think Melbourne wins the whole thing. It's just probably if
Okay.
I'm going to be supporting someone, I'd probably want a St Kilda to win it who hasn't done it for a while. So yeah, and
Yeah.
look, we stole one off them. The bounce of the ball stole one off them as well. And I didn't mention off the
Right.
top of the show, Jake, that White Paul, our
Mm.
normal co-host, isn't here today. He's not too well. I like to think that he's just decided not to turn up, a bit like Prince William not turning up to the Women's World Cup final. But he did actually text in or write into the show, and he says everyone who's north of 28 years old and is in the bottom. 8 or 9 of the starting 23 should be in the gun. Oh, how many can you turn over in a season though? There's a couple,
That's
probably one that
85% of the list.
that's a fair bit. How many can you move on? I think we've got Tui and well, Tui's not been announced yet, but you pretty much imagine that's going to happen in the next few days, or maybe he won't
Mm.
do the Geelong thing and just not say anything. But him and maybe there's one or two others there that we haven't thought of, and we'll have to plug those holes some way somehow. Oh, hang on. Either moment says, I don't understand all the misery. We've been up for so long. We've done brilliantly recruiting Stag up, and now we have to do it all again. Our top 10 pick a top 10 pick 2 years in a row really, really helps. Yeah. So we get Jai Clark back
Mm.
next year, which we're all excited about. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens if we trade in these picks and get someone in like a good ruckman or something like that. There's
Mm.
potential there. We might give up a player and a pick for a ruckman. I don't know, but that's probably something for another conversation down the track. I was watching the game, mate, and a thought struck me that it's premiers don't win. You don't find premiers in this game that go on multiple losing streaks. And we had 4 of them through the year. Yeah, some were bigger than
Yeah.
others, but we just weren't able to put together. It was a very, very inconsistent season. We won 5 in a row at one point, which is crazy when you think about how the season's panned out. We won pretty much half our games in a 5-game stretch, and then it was sputtering along after that. Another way of looking at it is if you started the season in round 4, we're actually doing okay. We're above 50%.
Yeah.
That's not how our season plays out, though. Unfortunately, we can't hit the reset button after 3 rounds. It is what it is. So. Have you got a general? You're generally a positive guy though, Jake. So you would probably be feeling reasonably good about things, reasonably optimistic about the future and such.
Yeah. I think, like, assuming that everything gets done. My like with Chris Scott signs his extension, is the coach moving forward. I think
Mm.
we'll see more of the same, and I think it'll be frustrating for people. I think there's stuff so emotional. We have less control for the coaches and the playing group. They have control. No more aware than they had issues this year. Now, whether there's a lot of it was injury, but a lot of it was form too, and players just underperforming relative to where they'd want to be. So they have something they can control. As a fan, you're stuck here going, we've got to tear down the list. We've got to blow it all up. Move the
Blow it
coach
all
on.
up.
Move this play. Yeah, like I think the proof is in the pudding. With if Chris Scott is your coach, then you're going to get a Chris Scott team, and that is one that is they're going to be eternally trying to continue to win. And I was thinking this today, just jumping forward to 2024 and thinking about, for some reason I was just thinking about next season's season preview and going, what will my expectations be next year? And my expectation will be that we contend for a spot in the finals, really, before I even see what moves are made. That's my anticipation, because this is still a team that has one of the best defenders in the competition, Tom Stewart, one of the best forwards in Jeremy Cameron. There's a lot of
Yeah.
players to come back that we've missed. I think there's a lot of young players who will take step forwards. I think Tom Atkins has worked some things out. And look, specifically on the game, I was looking through some stats waiting to come onto the show tonight, and like Rowan Marshall, 28 hitouts, led the
Oh.
game. Next best on the ground was Shannon Neal with 6, Tom Hawkins with
Mm.
4, Sam De Koning with 4. You look at hitouts to advantage in this game: 10 to Rowan Marshall, 1 to Shannon Neal, 1 to Sam De Koning. And then everyone's sort of surprised or stunned that we lose the clearances by 12 and keep giving scores up from stoppages. Like, a lot of it, although it's frustrating, it makes a lot of sense. We didn't have a starting ruckman. We're missing,
Yeah.
you look at Cam Guthrie. He was essentially top 3 in every conceivable midfield stat for us last year and top 25 in the comp. We're missing a lot, and the results sort of bore that out. And I am optimistic about what the future holds. Having watched a lot of the VFL this year, and just feeling like I think we've seen the worst footy that some of these players will play. I don't think Max Holmes is going to have many years as bad as this. I don't think Jeremy Cameron's going to have many
Oh no.
form patches like he's had. I just think you're not going to get a season as ruined by injury. So Jai Clark to get healthy, to come into the side, Toby Conway developing. I
Jai
think there's a
Clark for the
lot to be
Rising
excited
Star.
about.
Jai Clark to vie
Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
Rising Star with our 7th or 8th pick. Maybe split it between the two of
Absolutely.
them. What do you reckon? Big stick combat says, I'm supporting anyone but the Pies. My friends are Melbourne and Carlton fans. I'm not anti the Pies. I don't mind them too much.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, years gone by, maybe not so much, but and my dad would probably say he still hates them because he's grown up in an era where they were playing at Victoria Park and they were scum, and yeah, but they've come a long way, that club. I didn't mention, mate, another thing off the top I didn't mention. I'm wearing an apron at the moment, and that's not because I've been in the kitchen. It's just it's my commentary about feeling like the cats are cooked at the moment. So I am in the process of preparing. A nice little 2024 mixture. So we'll let you know how that goes in the off season. But smelling good so far. So, but yeah, the cats are definitely cooked. And I didn't actually buy this pattern. It was just it was in the third drawer. So it's what came out anyway. So. Yeah, so anyway, Parfitt's time is up, says Robbie. Do we know where his contract finishes? I'm thinking it might be up at the end of the year, I think. Don't
It's
quote me on that, Robbie.
2024.
It is 2024. Okay, so another 12 months
Oh,
to run on that one.
yeah.
Yeah, I like to think that he's had a down year and we hold firm on him, give him the opportunity to turn things around next year. I don't think it can get any worse. Yeah, he hasn't had a good run at it, has he? Really? So maybe give him an opportunity, but we'll see. Maybe he's got some trade value. We have played him a fair bit in the last few weeks, so we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Radigalea is another one. He did his hamstring early in the first quarter. There is that the last time we're seeing Radigalea in a Geelong Guernsey? Do you think is he gone to Port Adelaide or elsewhere potentially?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's not it's nothing against Rat. I think he's like developed tremendously. I just think there could be a win-win situation where there's a club out there who needs exactly what he has to offer. It's more of a clear-cut opportunity for him. We've spoken about it ad nauseum on our podcast. And I'd be interested to talk about this with you because I know
Sure.
your view is slightly different. Like our view has been essentially that the midfield, the backline balance when you've got Radigalea, Stewart, De Koning, Jack Henry, Zach Guthrie, it's too top heavy, and specifically the Rat Tom Stewart back 50 combo. To me, Rat sort of muddies the waters a bit for Stewart, where normally Stewart has total license to attack the ball, intercept mark, and so often when they're back there together, you just see them get mixed up. They end up pushing Tom Stewart further up the ground, which look, at times it can work, but I just think we're a better team when Stewart is that main pillar down back, he looks. We have said we think he looks frustrated often.
Yeah, he
When
does.
he's
He
sharing a
does.
back 50 with Big Rat. That's just our thoughts on it. I think it could be a win-win for everyone. But yeah, what are your sort of thoughts? Do you think he's gone? Do you want him to stay?
I do want him to stay, and I do think he's gone. So
Yeah.
I'll start with the first. I think if we're going to keep Rat, then I think we have to keep him as a defender and just hope that it comes in time. Look, Jack Henry wasn't the
Mm,
best defender year one. And we've got to remember, Rat's been in the system a little bit longer, but he hasn't been a defender all that time. So there's a lot to learn there. A lot of our other, probably Sam. Not everyone's a Sam DeConning that just smacks it out of the park the
mm,
first 24 games of their career. It's not how it goes generally. I think we stick with him if he wants to stay. If he's getting a 5-year contract, and that's just how it is. And I don't think Geelong should be in a position where they're doing that with someone like a Radigalea. But hopefully he stays on like a 2 or a 3-year deal or something like that, and has a really good go at it. My answer, and I don't know if it's the right answer, but I'd like to see Sam DeConning eventually move to the forward line and become a centre half forward. You've got to
mhm,
think about what's going to happen with Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins in a few years, and who's the next person to come in for that. Is it going to be Shannon Neal? Is it going to be Phoenix Foster? I think your best bet at this point is still probably a Sam DeConning, but like we haven't seen Phoenix Foster yet, and Shannon Neal only been 4 games into his career, so it's too early to tell there. But the other part of me says, stop bloody changing things, because that's been the story of 2023 as well. We just keep, and it's been out of necessity, to be fair, but we've tried everything under the sun. I think we've thrown Gary Rowan in the ruck. We've dropped Segler for Sam Simpson. We've done it all. There's probably a bunch of other crazy moves we've done too, and it just hasn't worked. And it's, as I said,
mm.
out of necessity. You've just got to try things, and at least we can't say that the coaches never did anything, never tried to look at a plan B or a plan C. It's just that every secondary option that we had just wasn't going to work this year. There was that magic element. It's not like if you put something in the cooking that just doesn't quite make it work. Like, oh, you forgot to put your eggs in or something like that. I've done that once, and the kids never let me forget that. I was baking some scones and I didn't add eggs or whatever it is you add with scones. I can't remember now. It was just something lacking this year, and we've tried to compensate by throwing in extra vinegar or extra pepper or whatever, and it just didn't work. Lots of cooking references on the show tonight. So I don't know. That's who knows. Who knows? I think we'll have 6 months, or at least 3 or 4 months, to maybe step away from the game, have a look at the final series, see what other teams are doing, actually stop and have a breath, get some players fit, spell them now,
Mm.
give them a nice long break. I'd say not drop them, but manage a few of the senior players next week, and then give them an extra week a rest, or bring them back a week early and hit the preseason up and going. It's not to say that we're not going to get injuries during the preseason. It's not to say we won't
Mm.
get another bad run of injuries in 2024. It's sometimes you're at the mercy of, especially with impact injuries. They're hard to sort
Mm.
of manage those ones. Hopefully, we've got the right medical people in that can get us back on track. But we'll see on that one. So. Now, Max Holmes? Hang on, another comment from either moment. Max Holmes will be the key to the rebuild. Acquire 3 or 4 top midfielders around him, so in 4 or 5 years' time, we can challenge again. What do you think about that time frame, Jake? 4 or 5 years, is that are you wanting to contend again next year? Are you genuinely thinking that can happen, or is it like either moment says maybe let's be realistic and look at 4 or 5?
It's a tough one. I and the key, by the way, to fixing anything that you're cooking is just add more sherry.
More
That's
sherry. I haven't got
definitely,
the sherry.
if some
I've got I've
yeah,
got
just add
just
more
plain
sherry.
flour at this stage, and a bit of love.
Just abandon the cooking and drink the sherry.
Okay.
The thing with I think 4 to 5 years, I mean, that's if we're contending in 4 to 5 years, that's great. But
That's great. Yeah.
I sound like a broken record a little bit, but I still think you you have to look at the balance of the season, and it's undoubted it's undoubtedly true that we've finished the season in a bit of a blaze of dismay, really. There's been
Yep.
some really bad losses. However, you don't have to rewind that far to recall Cat's Twitter being like, holy moly, if it all comes together here, our best footy's good enough. The win over Melbourne, where we had Jeremy
Yep.
Cameron knocked out early. Don't even know. Were we missing Dangerfield that game even? I can't remember. There was a number of players out for the game against the D's. We get that job done. We get the win over Port. Like, there's a number of kind of pretty key victories, I thought, across the season. And I still think our best footy is really, really good. Now, if we hadn't seen any of that this season, I'd be saying, yeah, maybe it is time to really clear house. But I just think you've got to look at the injuries we've had. And I
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
understand it's not only the injuries. I get that. It's not that in isolation, but it's even when we have been injured, there have been games where we've actually turned out good footy. And so that gives me like a lot of optimism. I think everyone's right that there's some changes needed.
Yep.
But I think we also forget that the club did actually go out and we're pretty aggressive making moves last off season as well. You bring in Ollie Henry, you bring in Tanner Bruin, you bring in Jack Bowes, add Jai Clark through the draft. You add there was a number of players brought in. They went in the mid-season draft and got Mitch Hardy
Mm-hmm.
as well. Like, it's not like they
We
stood pat. I
we lost Selwood and
I think we
Francis Evans, and there's probably a couple others that we
mm,
moved on as well. I can't remember who was
mm.
delisted now. It happens. Sorry, apologies to those players that I've already forgotten about. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there'll be some players this year, and there'll be some guys that haven't really had a good look at AFL footy, or maybe not even a look, not even a taste of it. And those are the guys that I feel really
Mm,
bad for if we have to move those on. That'd be a real shame. Hopefully they do get
mm.
some opportunities, but there'll be some senior players that the ones that we know about is Izzy at the moment. He's already declared, and there could be some more on the way. I think we'll find out in the next few days. Probably by Wednesday, I'd say at the latest, if there's going to be another announcement coming through. Now, Brad Close, ankle injury. I didn't notice that one, and I'm not sure. I don't think we didn't talk about it while we are at the game. I did notice the Max Holmes
No.
injury, and he came back on. But yeah, Brad Close didn't really play the second half, and he'll be one that I would imagine misses next week as well. What do you think of his season? Do you think it's been a slightly down year for Brad, or it's just been reflective of the team as a whole? He just doesn't. When the team's clicking, Brad's clicking. I don't think he's a driver of our success. He's more of he's the sweet sauce on top, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree. I think he fits into probably a large pool of players who have shown glimpses of their best, and then have shown glimpses of their worst as
Yeah.
well. There's
Yep.
I remember early on in the season going, well, like, Closey's like invisible, but then there's
Yeah.
been other games where he's been absolutely pivotal. I think the Melbourne game, I don't know what his stats were, but that was a game where I felt like he really dug deep and was a key factor to get us over the line. Um, I think a lot. It's interesting how often confidence was talked about. Like, it was particularly
Mm.
early on when we were having some losses. There was a lot of stuff that sort of was filtering out through like the club's podcasts and stuff. Where I think it was Selwood and Ling were talking about, that despite being
Yeah,
the reigning
that's right.
premiers, you can actually have a lot of doubt creep in. And I think it's a harder challenge than people. I think we are still underestimating the impact of the first season without Selwood. And I know it's only one person, but it's a hell of a person, Selwood. And I just think that everyone's finding their way. Chris Scott is finding his way as a coach without Selwood on the field. Every player on that field and in the change room and at training is finding their way as a
Dangerfield
Geelong Cat.
figuring out how to be a
Yeah,
captain. In the
100%.
big shadow of Joel Selwood. How do you
Mm,
follow on from Joel Selwood? We thought it was going to be hard following on from Cameron Ling and those types that came before. But
yeah,
Danger's just got to be his own man, and maybe his second year in the job, he'll be. I mean, he's shown glimpses of being a really good captain. At other times, I don't think he's shown enough. But
Mm.
yeah, I think just next year things are going to be a little bit different. There'll be some changes that we make, and there'll be a little bit of luck that goes away. I think there's things just haven't worked for us at all really in 2024, and it's almost a feeling of relief at the end of the Saints game, Jake, that it's finally, as much as you want to make the finals, it's like, okay, now we know, like, we can stop pretending. We can. I mean, I wanted to believe, and I was believing that we were still a
Mm.
possibility. But in my heart of hearts, I knew that we weren't winning the premiership. And as much as you think, oh, we can put it together, we can put together a great 6 weeks of footy. I knew it wasn't going to happen. History will tell you it just doesn't happen
Mm.
like that. You just don't roll into September or chug into September struggling and just getting over the line. You've got to hit the ground, at least winning probably 60, 70, 80% of your games and looking absolutely tip top. And if you're not in a good position, like a top two, or you're really, really going to be hard up against it to make that grand final. And then grand final day, for me, it's always just been a coin flip. Don't worry about who the favourite is. I think it's usually who plays the best on the day. They're pretty hard to predict grand final winners. You could probably pick them about 60% of the time, but it's just if you can get there, you give yourself a chance. And I just didn't think Geelong was even going to get to that final day this time around. But as I said, feeling of relief, I suppose. Just knowing that I didn't have to be worrying about that stress of going through September again. Probably saved a little bit of money from not going to the finals again. I have spent a lot of money. I spent $1,500 on tickets for the grand final last year, which set me back a little bit. So I won't be doing that this year. But anyway. Now, news that broke about an hour ago, Mitch Duncan got a week for a sling tackle on Jack Higgins. I don't know if it was worth a week, but at the same time, I'm probably was going to suggest we just rest Mitch for this round anyway. So I'm sure the club will just accept the penalty there. Was that a surprise to you? Or did you see it happen live on the replay? I think that was in the first quarter.
I saw
maybe.
a couple of bits and pieces that I thought might get someone a week. I thought Zach Guthrie maybe had one,
Oh
and
yeah,
again,
there
it was
was something.
live, so I don't really get to see a lot of replays. But I thought Stewie at times was looking like he might have been trying to find a week off next week towards the end.
Yeah,
He was sort of
he
yeah,
deserves a break.
bit, yeah, and Mitch Duncan's an interesting one. So he'll miss the last game, but he's still contracted through 2024 as well. So
Yep.
he's got a year to run. I don't know. I was thinking when I was talking to you in the stands last night that, maybe that was his last, but I don't know. The more I've thought about it, he's another one who's had a bit of an injury interrupted season, but has also had some really good games as well. I think it was the Port game where I think it was the Port Adelaide game where he actually led us for contested possessions or something. Like he's shown a
Something like
real.
that rings a bell. Yeah,
He still
he can
seems
do it.
like he's like enjoying the challenge sort of thing.
He's inconsistent. He's playing like a 19-year-old, probably. I mean, a really good 19-year-old, but he has games where he's fantastic and other games where it's like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Mm,
But
mm,
and injuries are really a hard thing, especially as you get older. It's your mind wants to go on, and sometimes your body just lets you down. No matter how passionate you are or how much effort you put in between games to get right, sometimes you just can't. And the more games you miss, the harder it is to get back to find that form again. And the good thing, the thing that happens with really good clubs is that a young fella comes in and takes, or a young player comes in and takes your spot, and that's a sign of a good club. And just really hasn't sort of happened this year with a lot of Parfitt's an example as well. Like he's had some opportunities. Mitch Nevitt, while he played really well, he hasn't demanded a spot. Ollie Dempsey definitely didn't demand a spot. So none of those young guys really forced any of the older guys into an early retirement, or at least spending a bit more time in the VFL. And
mm.
I think you probably need that. So hopefully we see a bit more of that next year. If some of these older guys do hang around, and if they do, that's great. But hopefully they're hanging around for the right reasons. And if they do need to spend some time in the twos, then they accept that in the spirit of making the club better. So now a comment from I the moment says Dangerfield's leadership hasn't been as convincing as I'd hoped. I'm surprised how timid he comes across. Yeah, I'd love to know what the players think. I'm sure we'll never really know what the players think about Danger's leadership. I can only say that I much would have preferred Tom Stewart as captain. Just feel like he's I would have preferred him leading the boys out week after week. I think there's a lot. The players tend to have a lot more respect for Tom. Danger's a fantastic player, but I just think in terms of respect, I think that Tom Stewart's been that guy that's done it the hard way and represents the spirit a bit more than maybe a Danger would do. But maybe that's another conversation for another time. I don't know. What do you think quickly
Do you
on that
think?
one?
Yeah, just quickly. The Danger was pretty much squarely because of whose shadow you were having to try and fill. Like, I think there's a lot of measures by which Tom Stewart would have been and will be um, the best. I do think this is Tom Stewart's team, if not next year, then the year after. But I will say, I think Danger was the man for the job in terms of being someone who has such a strength of personality that he's able to actually wear a year like this. And it won't, I don't think it'll hurt Danger. I don't think Danger's going to be going like, oh man, I've really tarnished my legacy here. I just think he's
No, not at all.
able to go, look, it was what it was. But I don't think you could say that. I think this would have really eaten Stewie up. I think you've seen how it has. And I think that's
Yeah.
the sort of captain you need for certain times. But I don't think the year after Selwood was the time. I think Danger's actually
No.
done a massive service for the club,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
taking this year.
he's been good, and he's definitely not. I think he's shown a lot of heart this year, and it's just been he's tried to do too much, and maybe that's just the way he's gone about it. You don't really want
Mm.
players to do more than what they're capable of. You give them 100%, but if once you start trying to do more than that, then you really, I don't know. It doesn't help, I don't think. Apparently, we've got a score update. If you are watching this live, thank you for tuning into us. Maybe you got your split screen going and you're watching the soccer and the show. But Spain is up against England. I have English heritage, but I'm cheering on Spain because I'm bitter on the Matildas losing to that one. So thank you for the update either moment on that one. Jezza didn't kick a goal after last week, kicking 7 goals. That's a bit of a shame, but I think we'll put Jezza in some cotton wool and we'll go again next year. You and I talked a little bit about the umpiring at the game. I think we both agreed, though, that while the umpiring, the free kick differential was shocking, I think it was 20-5, probably wasn't so much that it was being unfair towards us or anything like that. It was just maybe Geelong being a little bit undisciplined, and I don't know. We didn't have the ball a lot, did we? So a lot of uncontested footy for the Saints, and yeah, we just given away too many free kicks. And I don't think there's a lot of there's always a couple of mistakes in every game, but I don't think it was. Maybe you've got a difference of opinion, Jake, but I didn't think it was something that we lost the game because of the umpires or they influenced the game significantly.
No, look, I thought it was an interesting way to approach the season. The policy being for all the umpires to drop a tab of acid. It's a consistency. I don't have any issues with the differential. It is what it is. Sometimes you benefit from it, sometimes you don't. But I do have an issue with the consistency of the application of the rules, and I also accept that I'm probably not prepared to bring in some overarching video replay system that can analyze everything. It's just the nature of the game. It's so fast. You can just have a bad angle on a play. So, and you can have howler sort of decisions. You can have decisions where it's like, well, you paid holding the ball there, and then 2 minutes later you don't pay the exact same thing. Honestly, I think we're going to be better to just live with it and say that's part of footy. That it's just as much as we're going to try as humans to get it right.
What I want, Jake, is a bit like the Australian Open when it's a fault or it goes out. You've got the automated message that is like fault, And when it goes out of bounds, we get like past legends of the game coming over the PA system. It's like
Yeah.
out of bounds on the full, like a bit of
Yeah.
Ron Barassi or something like that. We'll bring that in.
Sounds
But in
great to
terms of
me.
the on-field decision making, I think we leave that up to the umpires, and we live with the decision, good and bad.
Yeah.
Especially when
I
it
do
hits
too.
the post in the grand final. They're always ones you just want the umpires to leave that up to them on the
Exactly.
day.
Yeah.
Got to get one back at the
Exactly.
Saints, don't we? If we can.
Yep.
Couple more things about the game. Brian Myers passed Jason Ackermanis for most goal assists. So a little polite clap there for Brian Myers. Well done, buddy. Friend of the show. And very good. And Max Holmes played his 50th game, and Zach Tui played 150 games for the club. So hopefully, yeah, we'll see what happens with Zach Tui through the week. I feel like I'm retiring the bloke. I'm not. I'm trying not to, but I think that's going to happen. Maybe I am trying to
Got a
retire him.
ticket
Who knows?
paid for him, apparently.
Do we acknowledge Jack Higgins played 100 games? We probably should, considering he had brain surgery and all that. It's a pretty terrific effort to come back from that and play 100 games at AFL at the elite level. So good on Jack Higgins from St Kilda for your 100th game across two clubs, I think. So we'll get to some we'll go to some votes. I don't know if you've thought about your 3-2-1, Jake, but normally when Paul and I are on the show, we do our 3-2-1, and there's no rhyme or reason what order we do them in or anything like that. I usually allow him the opportunity to go first. Have you had any thoughts about who you think your 3-2-1s might be, or do you want to save that for your show tomorrow night, Monday night? I think it is. You record, don't you?
Yeah, we'll do ours tomorrow night. But no, that's all right. It's actually a pretty simple one for me this week. I had one vote for Zach Guthrie, who just continues to impress me. His hands, like so many times, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a mark and that gets spoiled, and he just clings it. He's amazing. So one vote Zach Guthrie. I had two votes for Tom Atkins, and I had 3 votes for Tom Stewart.
Well, I had exactly the same 3 players. I had Zach Guthrie the 1 vote. I had Tom Stewart with the 2 votes, and I thought Tom Atkins was terrific all night long. And look, both. There's not really much separating Tom Stewart and Tom Atkins, but I gave it to Atkins, and it looks like he's won the Roll of Honour too. So with about 60% of the vote, something like that. So the fans on Twitter, if you're not following us on Twitter, make sure you check us out. Check out the chat cats as well on Twitter as well. But we do a poll every week for the best player on the ground, and Tom Atkins, first time this year he's got it, which he's been thereabouts. He's been on the podium a few times, but he hasn't quite got there. So Tom Stewart looks like he's going to take it out this year in terms of the Kaji. I can't see him not getting it. I thought Grime was reasonable on the weekend as well. Probably not his best game, but a couple of goal assists there, and just like most of the team, really, just looked a bit flat, looked a bit out of it, and especially when the game looked beyond reach. Maybe just not really showing much there, or just the body, the legs just weren't ticking over as quickly. So that's a shame. Oh, hang on. Is there another update with the socket? No, that's an old one. Keep the updates coming. What minute are we up to? I should have it on my phone if I can pull it up somehow. Other results, Jake. There's been some interesting games this weekend. Brisbane. I did not think Brisbane was going to beat Collingwood, but they got the job done by 23 points, and looks like almost guaranteed a home final for themselves. And I think they needed that home final to have a chance at going all the way. Are you feeling good about Brisbane's chances this year, or have you gone off Collingwood? I think they've lost 3 out of 4 now. Where do you sit with that?
People are going to think I'm hating on Collingwood, but I'm really not. I've been on the train that I would take the field if you offered me Collingwood or the field at any point during the season.
Really?
I'm taking the field. It's not that I don't think they're really good. I think they are really good. The injuries, just that's another thing. But I don't know. I always just thought there's some pretty pinch first, which they can do if Essendon upset the Pies. Now, I know that sounds absurd, but if Essendon don't respond with something after what they dished up on the weekend, I'd be very surprised. I think that game against Collingwood is going to be a lot closer than people think. There's nothing to play for except a win against one of their most bitter rivals for the Bombers. I think that could be a close game, and if if that happens, if the Bombers do upset them, then a Brisbane win puts the Lions in top and a home field advantage from top spot.
I think even if
So, yeah.
even if Collingwood only just gets the win against Essendon, I think it puts a lot of more doubt into people's minds about Collingwood's credentials as well. So I think you're right. I think Essendon shows a bit more this week, and it's a reasonably close game against Collingwood. And it'll say more about Collingwood than it does about Essendon. Really, like if they don't put the sword to Essendon by 50 points or more, then questions will be asked about Collingwood. Not much to speak about with the Richmond defeating North Melbourne game, other than the incident that happened later that night to Jack Zeeble, who announced his retirement. He was assaulted outside a bar, I think it was, or I think outside the bar, and possibly maybe needing to undergo some surgery. So, so that's terrible news that's had to happen, and for him and his family, thoughts go out to you. We don't like to see that at all, and unfortunately, we just see that a lot more and more these days, don't we? If it's not Jeremy Cameron getting headbutted at the Barwon Club, it's someone else. So there's no place for that anywhere in society. So cut it out. It's disgusting, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, terrible.
Carlton, 9 in a row, defeated the Gold Coast. They were down by 40 points at one stage. Find another way to win. They're finding all different ways to win this year. If they were finishing in the top 4, you'd almost consider them premiership favourites. It's pretty hard to win outside the 4 though. So, but if any team can, a team that possibly could be coming into the finals on a 10-game winning streak, maybe they are the team to do it. What's your feeling on Carlton?
It would be hilarious. You know, I have had a bit of a laugh. It's finally going to get it done, and Carlton surge up the ladder and knock them off. That would be amusing.
Wouldn't it be?
I don't know how I feel about it, because you know, maybe they are legitimately, they've unlocked. I mean, they've obviously unlocked something. They are playing with a sense of freedom, and playing some good footy and finding ways to win, even as you said, when they're trail. I think it's just going to be interesting to see. I would have liked the matchup. If you had said Geelong sneaks into the finals, 8th, who do you want to play? I would have said, give me Carlton at the G.
Yeah.
Because I would love the opportunity to play a team that hasn't been in a final in a long time. You kick a couple of early goals, and that full crowd suddenly starts to turn. I think it'll be really interesting to see who they get
Nervous
drawn
moments.
against. I could see like a St. Kilda or a GWS knocking them off.
Wouldn't that be good? So if you are a Carlton supporter just tuning into this show, apologies. Feel free to have a crack at us as well. We've just been knocked out of the finals. We're just being honest. Hello, Rach. How you going? Thanks for joining us. Good to have you in the chat. So GWS, we talked about that. Absolutely smashed Essendon. A fella by the name of Jesse Hogan at his third club, kicked 9 goals, 1, as you do, against a team that was fighting for a spot in the finals. Terrible. Can't really talk about that game. Poor old Essendon not making the finals. I finally conceded that my prediction that Essendon making the finals in 2023 wasn't going to work. I did have them in the finals in the preseason. So, yes, I accept the fact I got that one horribly wrong. So, well done, Paul. You have been proven correct on this one. Now, the big game that has raised all the talking points on Sunday morning is the Sydney versus Adelaide game. And yes, Adelaide, we were robbed right in front of me. Absolutely robbed by the goal umpire, whose name I don't know, and I wouldn't repeat anyway. But I don't think he'll be playing umpiring next week. Let's just say that. For those that didn't catch up on that game, I think I can't remember the Adelaide player's name. You might know it, Jake. Jump in if you do. But had a shot at goal, kicked it, and apparently it was called hitting the post when clearly it was about 10 centimetres away from the post, and went through for a goal. But anyway, it was called a behind. There was no review, and Adelaide are now missing the finals. And Sydney are pretty much a lock. So if they're not already a lock, so that's that. So, yeah, not a great decision. And the AFL came out this morning and said we got it wrong. And the decision stands as it is, and we're not changing the scores and all that. So see you later, Adelaide Crows, for 2023. Interesting one there.
I mean, yeah. What a what a shame. I
What
can
can
only
you
hope it
say?
was Tex Walker kicking for goal.
You know what?
Yeah.
I still think about 1997. So bad luck, Adelaide. Suck it up. Lee Colbert
Yeah,
and all that
sorry.
took it to mark and whatever. Um, anyway, a couple more games. West Coast defeated the Bulldogs in the upset of the year. See you later, Bulldogs. Just when I thought we were going to absolutely smash the Dogs before 24 hours ago. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. They haven't beaten us in 11 attempts at Kardinia Park, so I don't know. I think they have to win, but they also have to
Yeah.
hope Carlton beats GWS too. So good luck to them.
It's such a weird one. I felt better about our chances to win if they had have beaten the Eagles.
Yeah.
I kind of don't like if neither team has anything to play for, but yeah, I'll be fascinated. I haven't had a chance to chat to my Bulldogs mate Jacko about this because
Oh,
I'm
Jacko
interested to
from the Marcus
I'm
Up podcast.
interested to hear. That's right, from the Marcus Up podcast. I I wonder about the whole coaching situation. I'm a firm believer in you got to be consistent and like just I never want my teams to be quick to pull the trigger on a coach because I remember leading
Yeah.
into 2007 how it was like we've got to get Bomber out, and I remember saying to
Yep.
someone, "What if we like win like the next 10 in a row or something?" And then 2007 happens, and it's like you just never know. But
You don't
I'll
know.
just be interested to see what the reaction is. But that's a hell of a loss to have. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a shocker, and Luke Beveridge will definitely be under the pump next week if they lose and get bundled out, and he's going to have an interesting off season as well. I would say so. I can't imagine the club would look
Mm.
to terminate him, but yeah, he'll definitely be that coach under the microscope starting early 2024. Just rounding things out, Melbourne
Mm.
defeated Hawthorn by 27 points. Nothing really too exciting there. Hawks had a reasonably good month of footy, but have come back a little bit. Melbourne just were too good, and Port Adelaide did what they needed to do, defeating the 1997 version of the Fremantle Dockers. Did you check out their Guernsey that they were wearing with the anchor on the green and the purple and the red? Oh, horrible number,
Beautiful.
that one.
They should go back to it.
Yeah. What a horrible number. Yeah, I've got an old
Freeze.
Fremantle Guernsey
Is
at the back. No, terrible number
s-
there.
sitting in Johnny's lounge room in I reckon 2005. Someone might be able to fact check this one. I feel like we lost a muddy encounter at Kardinia Park to Fremantle wearing those purple, green, and
Oh.
red uniforms. It was absolute slosh fest down at Kardinia Park, and we lost. And I've had negative feelings about Fremantle since. I think it was
Paul, if you're in the chat,
2005.
do the research on that one for us. How do I get
Yeah,
on? Says
yeah.
Football God. I don't know. I don't know. That's a question. Oh, hang on. Breaking news from Robbie. Adam Simpson to face disciplinary action for disobeying instructions to be competitive but not to win. Is that true? I don't know. I'm going to have to look at the AFL website for that one. And Either Moment says, do you think Chris Scott has the energy to stay on as head coach for the rebuild? If not, how long do you see him staying? I might save that question actually for middle of the week because I am going to do another video about my thoughts on Chris Scott and a few of the other players, especially. So maybe check that one out Wednesday night because I'll elaborate on that a little bit more down the line. So yeah, Football Guide. I don't know how you get on, but yeah. Well, if you're talking about getting on the chat, it's not a fan cams as such. We haven't done fan cams before, but maybe we will do that next year in 2024. After the game, we'll get some fans to come on this, and we'll get to hear from everyone straight after. As we round out the show, Jake, quick look ahead to next week. We've talked about the Bulldogs a little bit, as I said. They've lost 11 in a row at Kardinia Park to us, and we've actually beaten them at all venues 5 times in a row now. So they are our bunnies a little bit, and normally we'd go into this feeling pretty confident. I don't know about this one because I think the coaches will maybe make some decisions to rest some players and give some other opportunities to some young guys to get a taste of footy and whet their appetites a little bit. Some younger guys whet their appetites for 2024. What are your thoughts on on the result? Do you think the Cats are going to throw everything at the Dogs, or is it more of an opportunity to have a look at some new faces?
I think regardless of who's in, we'll throw everything at them. I think you're going to get a very angry Geelong Cats team. I think we'll get a glimpse of what the next phase of Cats footy is going to be. I think Tommy Stewart will lead from the front in a pretty major way. I think it's going to be, if there was the potential for fights to break out in a footy game this year, I think this is it. I think there's going to be some very peeved Geelong senior players there. As I said, Tom Stewart, front and centre. I think he is going to go out and say, this is what Cats footy is going to be in 2024. Follow my lead, gents.
Yep.
I think we might see some young players. Yeah.
You heard that here first, everyone. We are going to have 6 or 7 Geelong players missing the first month of footy in 2024.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tom Stewart leading
definitely.
the way.
Sets a tone.
Set a tone, set the standard a little bit. You got to try something. I think the one thing we need to do, yes, bring the passion, be nice and loud, but be especially loud for a man named Bailey Smith. Every time he touches the ball, make sure you give him a big loud cheer, plenty of claps. Make sure you get around the young fella every time he goes near the leather, and let's see if we can convince him that Geelong's place he wants to be. A bit like we did with Paddy Dangerfield in 2015 when we weren't going to make the finals, and Paddy was there a few months later. So maybe have a think about that. I'd like to see a couple of ins, Jake. I would love to see Nevitt and Dempsey come back. I wouldn't mind getting a look at Toby Conway. He did play in the VFL, so he's fit and ready to go. It's just whether we give him a look now. Will we give a look to Phoenix Foster maybe as well? Don't know. It depends on how many blokes you want to put in the cotton wool for a little bit. So there's a few guys. I've probably missed a few of the other younger guys as well. Please eliminate 3. Bulldogs have too many Baileys. Hang on. Rach says Bulldogs have too many Baileys. Yeah, they do. And eliminate 3 of them. Very good. What do we have to give up to get him, says I at the moment. I don't know. Probably everything, really. He's
Our other bag of chips.
Another bag of chips. Yeah, who knows? A sponsorship from Fords or something like that. It's going to be tough.
Right.
Yeah, but look, I don't think close plays. I don't think Cameron's going to play. I think they'll just draw a line through him for 2023 and get him right for next year. Duncan's been suspended, and is there someone else? So it looks like, to me, it looks like we're going to make 4 changes, maybe even more. So hopefully there's some opportunities for some young guys there as well to come back in, and maybe is a farewell game for Menangola, and we all love a bit of Menangola action. So maybe it'll be raining men Angola on the weekend. Who knows?
Ollie Dempsey would have to be. I just had this up before when you're talking about Dempsey. Like, for me, the only reason he's not been able to get into the side is that maybe Myers is someone they see playing a similar role, because this season he's just, these are his numbers the last, say, I don't know, 5 weeks: 23 disposals, 22 disposals, 29 disposals, 15 disposals, 23 disposals. He's kicked 18 goals this season. I think he's had 10 games out of his 14 where he's had 20 or more touches. Like,
wow.
He has played just about as well as I think you could hope for him to play. And I do think with him, it's a matter of when, not if. I think we're going to see him at AFL, the right opportunity opening at the right time for him.
What about a Mitch Hardy? What do you think? Is Mitch Hardy a chance to get a game? He's the other one that I didn't mention before. Too many Mitches. What do you think about too many Mitches, Rach? We've got a few Mitches, haven't we? So maybe we got to drop a Mitch or 2.
Yeah, that's right. Way too many Mitches. Way too many. I think 99 problems, but a Mitch ain't one. I think I'd had a Mitch Nevitt lineup. I would like to see Mitch Nevitt play. I would actually bring him in place of Duncan. I know they're not exactly like for like, but I think that they could probably serve
in Mitch, out Mitch
functions. In
one
Mitch,
in,
out
one
Mitch,
in,
yeah.
In Mitch,
Yeah.
out Mitch. Yep.
There
It's
can
a
be
Mitch
only one.
fest. There can be only one.
That's right.
Well, we'll see if we can get all the Mitches in. There's a few Ollies there as well, and we've got a few Zacharys too. I think was it 3 Zachs or 2 Zachs? I can't remember. Something like that. There's a few anyway. I think that might do us, Jake. Fingers crossed we get the win against the Bulldogs. It would be nice to sing the song one more time in 2023 and give us something positive to look forward to moving on to next year. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I've been keen to get you on the show for a long time, so I'm glad. Unfortunately, we got you on after a loss. It's much better to get you on after a win. But as in Paul's contract, he doesn't come on the show after a loss. So he's not feeling very well, everyone. He doesn't have a. I could have got him on the show. The audio wouldn't have been great because he can't actually talk at the moment. He can barely make a noise. He's lost his voice. So. So yeah, unfortunately, no, Paul. But thank you very much. And as we said off the top, if you aren't a subscriber, please consider subscribing to the show and hitting that like. Thank you for all the comments in the chat. That's always a lot of fun, and I really enjoy doing this live show. We don't normally do the live show, but it's nice to interact as we're actually doing it. And Jake and I have spoken before. It does the live thing does bring a little bit of a different energy to the show as well. So. You get sort of on the spot a bit more. So that's been really enjoyable. So again, thanks, Jake, for your time. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As we always say, stay Geelong strong and go Cats. We'll see you on the next one, everyone. Take care. Bye. Go Cats.